I'm here in Putrajaya with YB Dato Sri Mustapa Mohamed. Dato Sri, thank you for joining us today for the launch of our latest Malaysia Economic Monitor under the title Surviving the Storm. This report, as you know, is published by our hub in Kuala Lumpur every 6 months, and we use it to provide a general macroeconomic update of recent trends in Malaysia and to shine a spotlight on a relevant special topic. As you would predict by the title, much of the report's focus this time is on the economic impact of the COVID-19 crisis and the challenges the Malaysian economy will be facing in the near term. Our special topic in this edition of the MEM focuses on the country's special social protection system and how it can be enhanced to alleviate the impact of the current pandemic and to support the economic recovery process and to address some of the challenges related to the changing world of work. In our discussion today, I would like to kindly ask you, YB, to address both topics, if possible, in your capacity as a member of the Malaysian Cabinet. So, as you know, YB, the global pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected economies across the world, including Malaysia's. In your view, what are the strengths of the Malaysian economy?
Fortunate in the sense that we are a very diversified economy. We don't depend on one or two sectors. And the other is that in terms of policy making, there's been a lot of coordination between the major economic agencies, driven by the Prime Minister, of course, but we have the Ministry of Finance, Central Bank, the Economic Planning Unit playing the key roles, including the Ministry of International Trade and Industry as well. So in terms of policy response, it's been very quick, I must say. We have been implementing in the last 3 months 4 packages altogether, 3 by the current government and 1 by the previous government. With the implementation of these packages, well, we've been able to, of course, cushion the impact. Firstly, we've been able to provide food for the people. One major objective was to make sure that there's food on the table, that there's no Malaysian family which is not able to have access to food. Of course, next is lives. So those are the 2 main concerns. Health has been a very important priority, of course, since day one. We've been very effective in preventing the pandemic, but we're fortunate because the economy is diversified. We have quite a robust manufacturing sector. Services have always been strong. Agriculture is coming up, and mining and construction are doing okay.
Thank you, YB. And what have been some of the implementation challenges with the packages, and what is the outlook for any future packages?
The 3 packages implemented by the current government are huge. All told, they amounted to 295 billion ringgit. As it is a big package, of course, we have to make sure that implementation is done effectively, and there's a good team at the Ministry of Finance under Laksana, for example, which monitors this 24/7. All sectors have been monitored. So in terms of platform mechanism, it has been put in place. The challenge is to make sure that the help reaches the ground. That's a big challenge. We've been providing lots of cash transfers, for example, help given to small and medium enterprises. The challenge is to make sure that the help goes to the ground. And the other challenge that we have is, of course, data is not complete. Yeah? The informal sector, for example, there are various estimates. Yeah? Probably about 4 million people are involved in this sector, and they're not registered with the Companies Commission. They're not registered with local authorities. So we have a fairly good appeal process, and the government's been very responsive. The Income Tax Department has played its role, of course, SOCSO as well, the Employees Provident Fund, the banking system. So the main challenge is to make sure that help goes to the ground. And the other, of course, is to make sure that they're back on their feet. Yeah? The small businesses have been given grants, 3,000 ringgit, micro enterprises. We want to make sure that they're back on their feet, they're able to restart their business. Going forward, this government continues to listen to the ground. We have lots of engagement. This is a key feature of all the stimulus packages. In coming up with the packages, of course, there's been engagement with every sector of the Malaysian economy and implementation as well. We've been talking to lots of people. In implementation, of course, a key role has been played by government agencies. Yeah. Many agencies involved, education, agriculture, the welfare ministry, for example, they have been playing a very big role. So, by and large, when it comes to implementation mechanism, it's been monitored very closely by a number of government agencies. And what's important is that we try as much as possible to ensure that no one is left behind.
As you know, the government now is in the midst of preparing the 12th Malaysia Plan, RMK12. In your view, how does the current pandemic shape the preparation process for this new development plan?
The MCO started on the 18th of March, and the 12th Malaysia Plan preparations have been very advanced at that point of time. Yeah, we almost done. That was why in the beginning we wanted to present the plan to Parliament in August. August meaning by June, July. You know, by as I speak today, for example, the plan would have been finalized. But when the pandemic came, firstly, of course, the economic landscape has changed. Yeah, the emergence of the gig economy. You know, food deliveries, yeah, people buying fish and vegetables online, yeah, so there's a big change, yeah, and of course many people were out of work, yeah, people became very fearful to go out, and of course health became a major issue. We've been able to deal with that very effectively. So the economic landscape has changed. Yeah? There's been disruption in some sectors. The tourism sector, for example, has been the worst affected. And any plan, you know, whatever plan you have, has got to be synchronized with current developments. And it doesn't make sense to have a plan when it is out of sync with what's happening around you. So that's a major reason why we decided to postpone the plan, because a number of things are quite fluid. Yeah. Things have become more and more unpredictable, yeah? And it is for that reason that we decided to re-engage with ministries and some stakeholders. So that's one. The other, of course, the economic situation has changed radically. The worst ever recession in 8 years, and unemployment, April number, for example, was 5%, and May number will be coming out in about 3-4 weeks' time. It's expected to be a bit higher than 5%. One think tank estimated unemployment to go up to 2.4 million people would have lost their jobs, for example. That was a forecast by the MIR. So these are changes which we need to take into account. And on the fiscal front, yeah, we know for a fact that the budget for this year presented last year had a forecast of just over 3%. Deficit to GDP ratio now is going to be 6%. So from the fiscal resources point of view, there's been a big change. Yeah? It means a lot. There's a lot of difference, 3.2% deficit and 6%. So this is equally important. The plan in general can be viewed from two perspectives. One is the strategies for the next 5-10 years. As you know, we put in place, or we introduced the shared prospective vision in October 2019 with 3 main objectives. Firstly, we want Malaysians to enjoy a decent standard of living. Secondly, we want to close the gaps, development for all. And finally, we want to achieve a united, prosperous nation. So those are the key objectives. But so that's one. People want to know what our strategies are. The other very relevant or very important issue that people are looking at, of course, how much money is spent by the government. The 11th Malaysia Plan, for example, had an allocation of 260 billion ringgit. So we need to know, fairly sure, how much money we have to be spent in the 12th Malaysia Plan. So those are two main reasons. One is the change in the economic landscape, very very unprecedented. Yeah, the decline in economic activity. Second quarter is going to be quite steep, of course. The first quarter, we were able to scrape through with a growth of 0.7%. So these are some of the reasons why we decided to revisit some of the strategies which were earlier finalized, I must say, before 18th of March. Quite a few of the strategies have already been put in place, but a few of the strategies have got to be revisited.
As you know, the pandemic has taken a heavy toll on many households in Malaysia. And we wanted to ask you, in your view, what should the goal of a social protection system be? What should it strive for?
Firstly, many Malaysians do not have social protection. Those who work in government, of course, many of them are on a pensionable scheme, so that's not an issue. And quite a few Malaysians contribute to the Employees Provident Fund and, of course, to SOCSO as well. EPF has got about 7 million active members. Working population about 15 million. So that's the percentage of Malaysians who are covered by the Employees Provident Fund. And now we have the EIS, which is working quite well. During the pandemic, a few thousand people have benefited from the EIS. Therefore, the pandemic has brought to the fore a number of challenges many Malaysians are facing, especially those in the informal sector, the fishermen, the farmers, the petty traders, and they are a very big group of people. And going forward, the number is expected to increase, and the rise of the gig economy, yeah, e-hailing, and those involved in the food business, for example. So the goal of of social protection would be to increase the coverage of Malaysians, yeah, who contribute to various schemes, including the Employees Provident Fund. And to me, the biggest challenge would be how to bring about 50% of Malaysians who do not contribute towards to the Employees Provident Fund. The law has been amended, and some from the informal sector are beginning to contribute to the EPF. Taxi drivers, for example, that's a good start. So we have a lot of challenges going forward, and this pandemic has exposed the vulnerabilities, yeah, of many Malaysians. And as you know, we got the MSPC, Malaysian Social Protection Council, which was established in 2016 and 2019. They put in a lot of work, and I think in the very near future, we hope the government will be able to consider some definite plans for the future of Malaysians who have not been protected by the various protection schemes in this country.
Why be on that very topic? It's been noticed that there are multiple schemes, as you mentioned, in Malaysia. Is there room for better coordination between the different schemes, BSH and the ones under JKM, to promote greater efficiency?
Coordination is a big issue in this country. We have, firstly, a number of agencies dealing with almost similar programs. And there's this issue of also this tendency to work in silos. Yeah, so we need to, of course, enhance coordination. We need to be more efficient. And if you look at cash transfers, for example, it's been implemented by the Social Welfare Department. We also have a number of agencies under the Rural Development Ministry doing cash transfers as well. Of course, education and the health authorities as well. So there's got to be coordination. Also, the issue of database. Yeah, it's important to have a robust database. The database that we have at present on poverty and absolute poverty will be revised in the next few months, hopefully. The Stats Department have just completed the household income survey. and some interesting numbers have come out of this survey. So that's another challenge. Yeah? Different agencies might be using different databases. There's been in the past, probably now it's not happening. In the past, we know for a fact that some families have been getting help from 1 and 2 agencies, not one, but probably 2 or 3. It's not happening now, hopefully, but these are the kind of challenges we've been facing. So indeed, coordination is very important, and I'm sure that when the policy is considered by the government, this will be a very important aspect. The need to be effective, to be efficient, the delivery mechanism has got to be very efficient.
How do you see collaboration between the Malaysian government and the World Bank Group hub here in Kuala Lumpur evolving, especially as Malaysia seeks to recover economically from the crisis, and it also seeks to cross that threshold into high income and developed nation status?
Our relations have evolved over the years from the basic help you've given us in terms of lending to the agriculture sector, infrastructure. Of course, we have graduated from that, and now you have this knowledge hub, yeah, and you have contributed a lot to the thought process. Yeah? For example, your work on the knowledge economy and now social protection. So going forward, I think there are many opportunities for us to work together to test out some new ideas, and we want to innovate. Yeah? We want to be creative in our policy. We've been caught in this middle income trap for many years now. Yeah, we've not graduated. Yeah, those countries which were at the same level of development as Malaysia in the 70s, some of them have moved up. We are stuck in the upper middle income category. Yeah, and we're supposed to be a developed nation by the end of this year, and of course we're not there yet. So these are some of the challenges we're facing. Yeah, we have some labor market issues. We need to attract quality investments. So in my view, I look forward as Minister in charge with you to work close with the World Bank on some of the new things that we need to do in order to make Malaysia great, in order to make sure that our people enjoy better standards of living.
Thank you, YB Dato Seri Mustapa Mohamed, for joining us today to discuss the government's perspective on recent economic developments and the country's social protection framework. Now I will turn it over to my colleague Richard Record, lead economist.